What's that?
I thought he said 50. Maybe I misheard.
Maybe you're right. I thought it was
Yeah, no,
more, it was like,
people keep-
I was surprised it was, yeah.
We got this.
Take out the condos, take out the
Shoreline.
condos.
It's sold for recently.
All right, like, call this meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence and prayer. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Robbins,
Here.
Commissioner Rushton,
Present.
Chairman Bonney,
Here.
Commissioner Wessel,
Here.
Commissioner Susslow,
Yeah, here.
Commissioner Allgaier,
Here.
Commissioner Lauer. Present, all present.
Thank you. This is time for public comment. Any public comment?
Well, yes.
You've heard it.
Good afternoon, yes. So I understand that Jonathan's going to come in and do his presentation that we heard at Rotary. Is that what you were
We're hoping you.
suggesting? Yeah, so it seemed to me the price of housing and then looking at where people are coming from. And my question to him about, are you seeing in-migration due to climate change? He said maybe from California. It looked like there were a lot of people from Florida that were coming in.
Just for the
Oh,
people.
sorry, Lois Bailey, Sutton's Bay Village. I know myself too well, anyway. And so I would perceive that, you know, as climate change keeps progressing, it's going to be more critical for people to get away from coastlines, which is only going to put more pressure on our housing inventory. And, you know, it's critical now, it'll become more critical. So it seems like you've made a great deal of progress on the emergency of internet service and broadband, and housing, I think, is next. And we have two people here concerned about housing issues. John's going to present his overview on the Merritt Road project. And when you look at that and the, as he calls it, his capital stack, a number of different funding sources and the complexity of putting it all together, having a housing director in Leelanau County was going to become more and more important to us. So I know Yarrow was planning to be here and was here for a little while and then left. I'm here to plead the case for the housing director and funds to contract with Housing North for that position. So I always feel like, okay, any questions? My pitch. Help us.
Any other public comment? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
You want yourself to?
Yeah, would you mind?
No, go for it.
Okay, thanks. I made 10. As long as Chet's okay. John Stimson, I live in Leland Township, but I'm representing Homestretch from Traverse City. I've never had a conversation with you about our project, so I thought it'd be smart to at least come and talk about where we are. I've requested 300,000, as you know, with my letter. But here's the picture. This is where we stand. In my letter, I asked for 300,000. We're pretty close to that number. The bottom line is 278, 345. Starting at the top, you'll see the developer fee could be, and this is conjecture, but MISTA does allow a 15% developer fee. We've overridden that and asked for 100,000. So we could go to 243 or 244. We're not going to do that. We're trying to build affordable housing and cover our costs. That's our primary function and goal. The price of the unit per unit has gone up. Construction costs, you talked about it, Mr. Robbins earlier. I don't know if that 278 is going to become 300,000, but I do have in the pro forma $130,000 contingency. So I think I've covered my bases. And that's usually a function of 10% of hard costs. And that's how I arrived at that 135. I could go into more detail on the pro forma, but this is probably the most important. So I wanted to update you on where we are. The mortgage with Independent Bank. I know it says MISTA permanent mortgage, but actually this is Independent Bank mortgage. So sorry for the misprint. The $200,000 from MISTA has been tentatively approved. They're looking at a new program for small scale developments. And I had a preview of that program about a week ago, and it looks pretty aggressive, but they're only going to allow so much money per community. So we can't overload one community with 800,000 and then starve another community of no funds. So they're only allowing so much per community at the outset. And it looks like we're going to be okay with the 200,000 from them. We did get the AHP grant, which is from the Federal Home Loan Bank. That's for 400,000. That is solid money in the bank. Homestretch right now still has about $42,000 of its own cash in the project. So that's our equity. And then we were able to raise locally $411,300, which is pretty substantial. And MISTA is mandating that local capital be put into the project if we're going to get the 200,000. So we've met that goal, and it looks like we're on our way, except for the last bit of money, which is the 278,345.
Stephanie, can I ask, is there other capital, private capital, Leelanau Christian Neighbors?
Their contribution was 250,000, and then I went out and raised additional money to bring it up to the 411. I went and presented to a lot of folks in the community, specifically in Leland Township. They are starving for affordable housing, and I said, if you can get me a piece of land in Leland that will allow affordable housing, we'll take a look at it. But there's nothing available. And when I say Leland, I should say the village of Leland, because that's where most of the extra capital came from in that 160,000. There is in Leland Township a piece of property.
Yes, I know.
That's what I'm sure.
Oh,
Bear has
sorry,
some
that's
questions.
right. Okay, thank you.
I was thinking it was.
You have 30 seconds left.
If you have any questions, I can be done. I mean, I just wanted to present the facts to you where we stand. It's at 278, not 300, but we take the 300 and we put it towards, whatever we can to make it a better project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Commissioner comment about this, I think there are 8 units, and this land was donated by the land bank,
Right.
contingent upon you getting full funding, right?
That's right.
Raising the money.
That's right. We've met the first requirement. We're in the second phase of an extension right now to meet the full requirement. And I just updated Trudy Calla with that right now.
Any other commissioner?
Question, comment? Remind me where is this particular,
Right on Merrick Road.
that's what I thought. Okay. That was my question.
Right. It's above 9 Bean Rows, and it's actually close to the governmental center. And one of the aspects that we cited about the location was it's close to the governmental center. So anybody that worked here could effectively rent there as well.
These are all rentals.
100% rentals, 100% affordable rentals with no units exceeding 80% AMI. Some rentals allow up to 120%, and even the MISTA program allows that, but we're only going to 80%. And there's only 2 units at 80. There's 2 units at 80, 4 units at 60, 2 units at 50, and 2 units at 30. So we've got the low end up to 80%. And that was part of the grant submission for the Federal Home Loan Bank. We had to meet that income mix, if you will.
Any other commissioner comments? Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Then we'll move on to the purpose of the meeting. And, I think first we should do the future meeting date.
All right, I have 3 dates I suggested. I sent to you Friday, February 18th, February 28th, and March 1st.
Okay, what are they then?
February 18th, February 28th, and March 1st.
Monday, February 28th will work for me.
Me too.
Me too.
No, not work in the morning for me.
And none of the morning for me either.
So 1 o'clock.
Afternoon.
1 o'clock.
No.
Pretty sunny on the beach at 1.
I'm sorry.
Pretty sunny on the beach at 1.
Yeah, we feel your pain.
You should get out of the sun then.
What was the other Friday? The March
Okay, I
1st?
have February 18th, February 28th, or March 1st.
March 1st is wide open. for me.
That's first work.
March 1st would work for me.
How about the 18th?
We'll go back to the 28th.
No, it's up
Melinda, did you say the 28th was working in the afternoon? Afternoon. Yeah, it is for me in the afternoon too. So it's 1:30?
to those.
Okay.
Is that what-
Does anybody have a
1:30?
problem with
I
that?
think I can make that one.
So February
28th.
28th at 1:30. Correct?
ARPA,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
Thank you.
I will check if someone from the Michigan Municipal League can come on that day.
Yeah,
We're gonna meet, it's worth a try.
right. Like the end of time that we scheduled someone.
Yeah.
So did you also mention the 18th?
Mhm.
Can we do that too, just in case?
I'm not sure.
Unavailable.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, conflict.
Not the best.
Then we go back to the top where there's a review of the rescue plan.
Yeah, I just put potential additional, I don't know if you want to allocate, if you want to talk about the other proposals, how you want to talk about that, so it's pretty generic in that respect. You made a last week, North Remains to develop a contract for 3.2. But there's still, you have 4.2, so I don't know if you want to wait, or, I just left that way generic enough that you can have a dialogue about how you wish to proceed, if you wish to proceed at this point. I am getting a lot of calls and comments from people that submit proposals, want to know what their status is, because they read about the 3.2.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good proposals. My priority is to be able to help housing in some way. And we had a request from the Housing Action Group, revolving fund with the land bank, and we've got John's home stretch proposal for rental housing. And I hope when we're all done, we could have applied some of this money so that we can at least make a dent, a small dent in housing.
So to piggyback on that, I think having a part-time housing position for a couple of years, just because housing is complicated. It's very complicated. And the funding issues are complicated. And you have to know how to jump through the hoops. So I would support that as well. If we are going to put our money here, having someone for a couple of years to help us maximize that and maximize the value we get, I believe is an important piece. And I'd like to see at least 750,000.
For,
Pardon?
for,
Housing total. And then allocate it within that. It's not enough, but it's a start. And it's so desperate to support our businesses and communities. Our people.
Commissioner Wood.
I'm not in support of the position. In fact, we've already said we didn't want to fund any positions, and that's a problem with you fund a position, it will never go away, and we'll be responsible for that position in the future. We've already made some great strides, as good as can be expected, considering that we're basically living in a ARPA vineyard area. I mean, that's the truth of it. We saw it today with equalization. We hear it in our neighborhoods, we know what's happening. So a position is not what the developers and the builders and the project managers have told me that they need when it comes to affordable housing. In fact, if we use the term affordable housing, they just laugh because obviously it's insane. You know, we just heard from one project, so what is it? It was, you know, almost
217.
$2 million total though for eight apartments.
1.7.
Well, 1.7, so almost 2 million for 8 apartments. I mean, the building costs, it's to no fault of anybody's, the building costs, especially right now, are just out of control and certainly unaffordable. So, you know, when I look at my priorities, I said this from the beginning, I think we need to help as many people in this county as possible. When I think of the people in this county, I think of the people that are here in this county, they're our residents, they are our taxpayers. And obviously, fiber, internet, towers, etc., that's going to help all of our residents eventually. And it is going to help people to be able to work out of their homes. It's going to create home-based businesses. And that, once that creates home-based businesses, that I do believe will create more potential employees. Because if you've got a spouse that can work out of the home, you've got another spouse that could potentially work in the field, or children, hopefully, that can go out and work at our places like we need, like our restaurants, etc. So I think one will drive the other. But we've got, you know, we just supported one form of fiber. So there are other IP internet service providers that are also looking for assistance in driving even more fiber. So if we're looking at that's just kind of where I look at it. I know we can continue. We're already, you know, doing the contract with Council of Governments for the housing, and that's going very well. We're learning a lot. It's a slow process, but we've already got that progress for that process going.
I mean, if we've committed, as we have voted for, 3.2 million, that really leaves us 1 million. If we do the tower here, that's, I would say, even when he cuts it down, it's still gonna be 500,000. So, and it's later on in the agenda, if we renovate the lower level for environmental health, which is what I think would really work and be good for the county, it would help the health department out to move that sanitation. I'll call it the sanitation department, but they call it environmental health. You know, and that's going to be, I think, if we're right, it'd be around 300,000. So that leaves us 200,000 for other items of that 4.2 million. You know, so I mean, if we want to help other things, you know, if we did 100,000 for this housing development, and we help out Glen Lake, I think it's such a great idea with keeping the water clean. You know, and then we have to really decide. I know I'd like to do something with Solon Township, at least to do their study, because I think that's also about water quality. So you know, yes, and then Empire also wants to do it, but I think that's more a road commission thing than ours. But that was the only thing I saw with that. So I mean, I had put like 20,000 for Empire Village, 36,000 for Solon. You know, Glen Lake, I put 30,000. You know, and then the rest would be on. You know, that's the way I see it going, and I think those were things that would basically benefit our children, our grandchildren. That's what I really kind of have put as my priority, things that are gonna last and help be here for much longer than just food for the people right now, even though that's important, I know. Any other comments? Commissioner Rushton?
What about that tower at the north end of our county so that those citizens up there have cell service?
I think that's gonna have to come out of our tower fund.
There's, there won't be enough money.
I mean, we have the township's health system.
Well, we don't know that yet, so here we go, you know, out there spending all these dollars before we have all the information in.
Right.
So for me, I'm not prepared to make a decision on anything, to be honest with you, because it's like I said from the very beginning, we're in a big hurry to spend this money today. And we have no idea what's coming down the pipe. As I said from the beginning, I was going to support the towers so that the whole county has access to either cell phone service or internet service. But that looks like that's kind of got lost along the way.
Well, yes, we need to worry about the emergency. We need to worry about that, and I support that. I thank you for reminding us of that, Deb. I guess I'm optimistic that we're gonna find a way to get those towers. If we would have had to do the towers with or without rescue dollars.
Oh, no, that's not a correct statement.
I mean, that's how I'm thinking. I mean, my thinking is this is a mandated responsibility to provide emergency services in our county. But yeah, I don't want to make decisions about how we spend this if it jeopardizes emergency services communication in the county. I don't think we can.
I think Chairman Bunnick laid out some good uses for the remaining money. No, I think you were correct about arguing down costs for the tower here. It's probably going to come in around 500,000 or 500,000. We do have money in the tower fund. We also have a commitment from Leelanau to commit some of their ARPA funds towards the establishment of the tower. So we probably would have the funding necessary. In terms of Maple City, well, we don't know where that's going. That could take a long time. That's got to go through the government process. And by that point in time, hopefully we'll be getting revenues back into our tower fund. So there might be sufficient funds there to cover it. Excuse me. So I think we have to keep emergency management as a priority, but I see it as probably being covered with the resources we have available. I do think we're going to get more money, which I hope we do, and not only for broadband, but also for covering some of the other projects that we all liked and really can't find a way to budget in this particular budget. Housing, I would love to see some of it go towards housing. How much, I think, it depends on what we do with towers and how much is left. And I think it would be nice to put, you know, the One Lake project is a very nice one, the ARPA project, the Solon project are all very nice that we can work those in.
You know, I just keep thinking of the businesses. My grandkids have worked at Anderson's and Glen Arbor. Oh, microphone. I keep thinking of our businesses and their need for workers. I hear about it because my grandkids have been working at Anderson's for a few years and they struggle to get people to work. Because locals, they just don't have the people.
For clarification, Anderson's is the grocery store in Glen Arbor.
Yeah, sorry. So I hear about it. I hear about, the manager working the deli and that kind of thing. Brad Anderson has the kids living in his summer house because there's no house around. So yes, we have to do broadband. I believe between the tower fund, the money is still to come. And we would have paid for some of that out of our tax dollars. Because it is mandated, they are mandated services. So we have to give a leg up, some sort of leg up to housing. Because that is supporting our county, our businesses who desperately need assistance with affordable housing so they can run the businesses.
Any other comments? So then there's the points communication agreement update.
Yeah, last week you authorized me to start the process of developing contract with points communication, so I briefly talked to our legal counsel on which attorney is going to handle it. And there's some things we need to develop, obviously a scope of work, timeline of schedule, payments and so forth. And then we started talking about, if you look at the major projects we've done here, like the roof repair here, HVAC in this building. One of the first things we did is we hired a professional consultant. I don't think any of us here have the skills to manage a $3.2 million project. Actually, it's a $5 million from our perspective. So I was talking to Chris from DCS about the scope of work. I was hoping he could help me develop a scope of work to get to the contract stage. And he actually came up with a proposal to be a project manager or owner's rep, which this is the first time you've seen this, which I just got this. Basically, he would serve in the same capacity, the same process we used when we repaired the roof next door, when we did HVAC next door, and we did part of it here. We hired an owner's rep to look out and our best interest and manage the project for us. So this is a proposal from Chris. It's 5% of the total cost, which is pretty standard when we pay for project managers, or 160,000. So that could be part of the 3.2, or it could be on top of that 3.2, depending on how you use the structure. But I thought we should at least have a dialogue whether you want to proceed with project manager. This is a lot of money on a major project, and who's going to be overseeing that is a question.
Well, actually, I think this is an interesting concept, and I really didn't think about a project manager. I appreciate the idea of it all. And my thoughts were after last week's meeting is that the contract our attorney would write for us to work with Point would be have some performance guidelines. That's as far as I thought about it. We'd have to have, we would only pay a certain amount till a certain amount of fiber was laid, and then a certain amount was laid, et cetera. As it begins to grow out, we would have to see that growth before we actually gave all the dollars or whatever. But how would a project manager? I know. I remember with the jail roof, they gave us updates. They were there, and he was able to be there on a daily basis, look at the progress, make sure it all looked like it was.
Yeah, we didn't pay any invoices till they authorized it. The same type of thing. They would be the person to make sure nothing gets points or anything. But who's going to verify that they said they have 10% done? How do we verify that?
Right.
How do we know
That was
they
my
did
point.
what they said they would do?
Mhm.
So my experience always has been with major projects. You always hire someone to be your owner's rep and as a professional that knows the work, knows what needs to go in the contract and oversee the entire project. Because these contractors are, I'm sure, working a lot of different projects. And there's no one overseeing them. And I'm not saying Point North will do anything, but there's my experience is you want someone looking out for the county's best interest to make sure that 3.2 million is spent properly and wisely, and that we have the proper terms and conditions. I think we all learned a lesson when these two buildings were built. the consequence of not having a project manager. Not to blame anyone, but we did not have one. We had a roof warranty next door that was worthless. We have now that's very valuable. We have someone overseeing that project on a regular basis, we get HVAC and those things. We get a professional overseeing project. I don't know of anyone who could oversee this project, who's an expert in this field. We'd have to basically take their word for it.
Well, that's kind of where I was going, except is this gentleman able to be on? Is he from downstate or is he?
It's a gentleman that's done the research for us.
I know, but I
Yeah,
thought he
I
was from
don't-
downstate.
This is just a concept. He suggested it, that he could be the project manager for us. So I'm just bringing it to you for the first time. I know you have not seen it before.
I mean, I'm wrong, maybe he is from up there, I just thought he was from downstate.
Commissioner Silverstein.
No, he doesn't live up here, but he, just looking through this is the type of thing he's done for other companies, like Washington County, he's doing it right now. What he needs to do, the technical side, involves going through a lot of their plans, making sure that they are actually being cost effective, making even some recommendations. It's a highly technical area, and much of what he can do will not require his being here, although I know that he would be here, like he's the one who drove all the streets. If it requires it, he'll do it. But it does give us someone with the technical engineering skills to be able to understand.
As long as it works, that's been.
And I'm guessing just like the roof project, this building, we didn't hire an individual, we hired a company, and they actually had different people here overseeing the project. We had one contact person, but there were different people that came to oversaw a different part of the project. And I'm not sure how big his company is, but he may have someone here that could oversee the day-to-day
Yeah,
things.
you're right, and they do have people that are.
Yeah, so it would be with a company, not with an individual.
Exactly.
I like the idea of a contract management service, and I think there's some potential cost savings. Because I think we need to make sure that when there's an opportunity to partner or to share, instead of start over with new fiber. And I think Chris has already talked to the people from Point about the possibility of using some tribal fiber maybe. And I think we need somebody making sure that we save every dollar we can save along the way. I think he could do it.
Commissioner Rushing.
I've always been a proponent of having someone on our team. With that said, a question for this board is, and the question came up. Why have we not gone out for an RFP on this job? Is that not what we?
We could. I mean, that's up to the, what we did last time, as you remember, most of you were here, we went out for RFP when we did the HVAC next
Right.
door. We're happy with the performance they did. So for this building, we did not go for RFP. So could you go for RFP for this job? Yeah.
Right, so I would like to see us take that extra step to ensure that we're getting the right contractor at the right price, and I believe that's part of our rules when we do something, especially the size, the magnitude of this project. That might be how best.
The only challenge I see with that is just from a timeline perspective. If you're hoping to have start this problem in the spring, realistically, to get RFP out and get bids and proposals out, you're talking about picking someone in April.
But if we can save
Yeah.
$500,000, $500,000, $1 million, a month isn't going to make that much difference.
One thing in reference to what Commissioner Rushton said, which is very valid, the chair is somebody who drove every single road in our county. So talk about being familiar and knows exactly where the unserved parcels are. So he is eons ahead of where anyone else would be in terms of knowledge base about what is and is not in our county. So somebody else would have very big learning curve here. And he's been involved in a lot of the planning, hasn't he? Yes, 14.
We've just come out of the ARP funds or with, out of the 3.2 million?
Well, that's up to you, how you wish to decide that.
I think the 3.2 million has to go to the contractor, so it would have to come out of the rest of the ARP funds. So to actually make it.
Well, you made a commitment to try to get 5 million.
Right,
So somewhere you have to find a 1.8. So if you add this, you almost have to find just under 2 million. If you decide to make it part of the 3.2, I mean, the numbers, either way, you're gonna have to pay somehow. So just matter how you wish to structure it. So instead of goal of trying to raise 1.8 billion, you have to raise 1.97.
right. So is that the finance committee? Are they gonna look at that
It's,
tomorrow?
well, we just got this, so I guess I'm working for feedback, how you wish to proceed. Do you wish to go out for bids or not? And then where, will the funds come, if you choose to go forward, 5% is a very standard cost, so I think no matter who you get, the costs are gonna be the same. So where is the additional money gonna come from, the 170,000?
To 170, I figured 160.
Yeah, 160, I'm sorry, just roll this 160, I'm back to you.
I would suggest we take it out to 3.2 to start with. And, you know, my thinking on this, DCS technology design has really is very, very familiar with the situation of our county. Commissioner Algar's comment is dead on. It would take a lot for someone else to become as ready as that fund is. Not saying that they couldn't, I'm not saying that we shouldn't, but I do think that the other part of this is that the effort has been to look at other providers and see where they could fill in and immediately ensure that we meet the two goals that were laid out. Excuse me. And there is, I will say, a meeting set up with Charter to pursue just that tomorrow, of which DCS is going to be a part of. They're volunteering their time to do that, just to move the things forward and try to reach the goal. Remember, one of the two goals short-term was to have a minimum of 35 megabytes down, 5 megabytes up, which is high speed to everyone in 2022, so that no one gets left out, and then work towards fiber to the home. So the meeting with, since Charter is over in that southwestern quarter of our county, it makes sense to talk with them about, can you look at expanding and, you know, just have a first discussion. This is the kind of thing that would continue. So it's to our benefit just in not managing the project, but I think as I was reading through there, it's also implied that looking at other ways to bring this expansion plan to fruition, that we would do that as well.
Well, it seems there's agreement that we need a project manager, right? I think it's a wise investment. Question is, how do you want to fund it, and if you want to go out for bids, or you want to enter into contract with DCS technology?
Well, I work closely with Chris, and I've seen the work he's done with our lift group. And I remember how we first came into contact with him because of what he was doing across the state with this. I don't think we can find a better person, and certainly not one that comes ready to go to work already. So I would favor whatever we do it with DCS technology. I think he can't be beat. I have seen him in meetings. I've seen him make decisions. I've seen him work with, I saw him work with Point. I've heard him with the other ISPs. He is the person that I would like to see manage the project. I don't know if we're doing it. It's just a special meeting.
Yeah. This is,
I would make that a motion.
so just like last week, I think what you want to do is authorize me to enter in a contract for project manager, because you want, I think you want to see the contract before. This is just a proposal.
Right.
I think you want to see a contract before you commit to it.
Just for one clarification of the motion, it was to proceed with a contract with, are we talking about this Charles Share?
DCS technology gives us
Is that you want to proceed?
Yes.
Potentially, because we
Potentially, I'm not talking about approving the contract, I'm
Yeah.
talking about approving, working on a contract
But basically, you're authorizing me to develop a contract.
yes.
Then I would come back to the full board.
I could have said that plainer at 9 this morning.
Me. In your second, is that okay with the second?
The second one,
I'm
yes,
sorry.
no, that's fine.
Okay. Commissioner Lott.
Thank you. My concern is, I guess, since we just got this, I really don't know what the $160,000 is based on. And it's, excuse me, for approximately 2 years of work, but it sounds like he's doing other counties. So is that a lot for 2 years of work? I don't know. That's one thing we're missing by not doing an RFP. We, like Commissioner Rushing said, you know, to renegotiate, should we come back and say, you know, we think that's a little high considering the work, if it is. You know, maybe we can negotiate. It just seems like, I don't know what this, well, 5% off the top of my head. Well, 5% is a standard fee, is it? I don't know. I do know, I appreciate that he's familiar with our county. I appreciate he drove all the roads and I appreciate he's been working with Point. But does it really give him the non-competitive bid? Does it give him the, you know, does it give us the right to give him the bid just based on that? He does have a leg up. I guess my point is, I don't know if there's other towns, there's people in this county that are technically versed in this that could do it for us. I don't know. Are we not giving somebody else the opportunity to be our project manager on this or not? I just don't know. This is something new we've just been placed with. Especially this is going to come out of our dollars or our ARPA dollars either way, because I don't know how it can come out of 3.2 unless we already know how we're going to make that up. So I really think it needs to come on top of the 3.2, which, okay, if it's ARPA dollars, we've got those. And if you want to do that, that's okay with me, but I think it has to come on top of the 3.2. Because I think Point is pretty much planning on the full 3.2.
Well, I mean, I guess I've seen contracts at 3%, I've seen them at 7%, you know, but like you said, most often it's 5%. You know, and so, because that always seems to be, they balance out, you do negotiations, end up with 5. So,
Has anybody negotiated with him?
no, and that would be the only thing is if we asked if we could do it for 4% or 3%.
Exactly.
You know.
Well, verbally, he suggested 6, I gave him 5. So was that a form of negotiation? No. When he said, would I like a proposal? So it's very informal, but of course, that's flexible also.
So,
I shouldn't say 5, I said our standard in the past is 5 projects. So
but that's where the 5%, that's where I came up with 160,000 of 3.2 million. You know, and I didn't do 5 million.
Right, no.
His proposal is for 160,000. It's not for percentage.
So it's actually really about 3%.
Well, if you look at 5 million, yes.
Well, then that's what we're supposed to come up with.
Yeah, that's true. If you look at that perspective.
You know, so that's why I was thinking it's actually kind of a good deal. So, just my math, that's
true.
That's good.
It's 3.2%.
Right. So, anyway, so I you know, and with all the training he has, I know we won't get a better than a 3% deal. So, I mean, I'd like calling it 5%. So, any other questions?
Well, can I repeat the motion because I
Certainly.
had to kind of make it sound good, and it might not be right. Motion by Wessel that the Leelanau County Board of Commissioners have the administrator proceed with a contract with DCS Technology Design LLC for project management services for rural broadband. Was it to proceed with, or was it to draft a contract?
It was to develop a
To develop a contract.
Proceed
to develop.
Work with legal counsel to develop.
I will do that. That's how we develop a contract.
Pending corporate council review at the end.
Well, they will develop the
Potential
contract.
contract.
I'm comfortable with that. If you want to put the word potential in there, that's
Proceed
good.
to develop a potential contract with DCS Technology Design. Now, you wanted, do you want me to add that corporate council review at the end?
Yeah, just so we have it, so that we know.
Seconded by.
Yeah, and at this point, you don't have to decide where the funds are coming until you approve the contract. So you have time to think about that.
That's exactly right.
All you're doing is developing, authorizing me to develop a
I
contract.
think it has to be with the corporate council.
Our bigger problem is the rest of it.
This is the easy part.
That's what he
Next
said.
motion should be the state for another 5.
Did I miss something? Did you say corporate council draft the contract, not you?
Well, they always draft a contract. My job is to present a contract to the board. So
Procure the contract.
So is it-
I think we all know what we're saying.
Yeah, it's work with corporate council to
Yeah,
develop
which
a
is good.
contract.
Any other questions?
If you tell me to develop a contract, it's my job to develop a contract. It doesn't matter how it happens.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no. Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, I'll see if we can get that part by the 28th. At that point, we determine if you wish to approve by the code.
All right, so then we've already had our tower update. And then, all right, we did the points where at project manager, we did that lower level renovation. cost.
Yeah, this is a follow-up for one of our first meetings. Commissioner Bunnick approached me as we're just starting this ARPA funding about the potential of the health department. And the health department, as you know, in the proposal, talk about space. They've been talking about space for several years. They are currently at the Montessori School, and their lease expires, is it 2 years? 2 years from now. And Montessori, I think, intentions to take over that space. So when Mr. Bunnick mentioned that, and several of you thought it was at least worth looking into, I contacted the health department, and there was a meeting with Dodie Putney and Eric Johnson, and one more person from their staff. Michelle Klein, and along with John Richard, who's done quite a bit of architecture work, engineering work for us, to see what would be available. And in a nutshell, in terms of their need, they would ideally love to be in one facility, but their biggest need is what they call their environmental department, which you call the
Sanitation.
sanitation, yes. And they pointed out that they work very closely with the conservation district.
Correct.
Many people that come to the conservation district then end up going to health department or vice versa. And so in terms of their space need, the space in the lower level, which we call the ugly room across from the conservation district, is actually the exact amount of square footage that they need. I won't read my memo because you guys can have it, but if you look at this chart here, the second, it's part of my memo. Do you have it, Patricia? I passed it out. You should have it on your desk somewhere. Well, I have extra. Michelle, I have extra copies. So if you look at their space need, it's about 2,200. The portion of the ugly room is 2,350. So that amount would fit in there. The rest of the space that they would need could be what we call our exercise room. It'd be tight. Their need is actually this a little small, about 300 square feet less, but they could make it fit if they really had to. Challenge with that is we would lose all our storage space. Now, we would not have to use the cage area, which you were talking about that. So the next space is actually a drawing. It says Eric Johnson plan. This is what they would like to see their offices look there, and that would fit into the ugly room. So that's just a schematic drawing. And then finally, in the last page is kind of square footage, what they need, the rest of it, which technically could fit in a space that's 3,020 square feet, but we will lose all of our storage space at that point. So as Mr. Bunn pointed out, we would have to build a storage building somewhere. But we could move the environmental health and move the items that are in that room into that other room, that's just the exercise room. In terms of the cost, I was quite shocked by the numbers, but I guess Mr. Bunnick, when I talked to him yesterday, he thought they were right on. So basically, this does not include any furniture or computer or anything. It's just to construct the building, the space to remodel it is between $175 and $228 per square foot. So if you take the space that is the ugly room, that'd be, now rounding out, 411,000 to 535,000. To do the other area, 528 to 668. They said though, they'd be very happy if they could just move the environmental science. The other space they could find.
What they think is that if they just move the environmental out, they would give Montessori enough room that they could probably stay at NT.
Yeah, that's a potential.
That's what they're thinking,
Yeah,
because they know they're gonna need more room, you know.
yeah. We could take all the storage that's in the ugly room and move it into the exercise space and not touch the caged area. I don't know if you know, every department has a caged area, lower level too. Some you can see that, some of it not.
So the ugly is the left-hand corner?
The ugly room is
Right.
across from the conservation district. Yeah, that has 2,350 square feet.
Okay.
Now also, as we did with the conservation district, we do an allocation every year to the health department. I'm guessing you want to lower that amount to help pay for some of these costs. We did that with I assume they're paying rent for the Montessori. So take a percentage of amount they're paying for the rent there, based on square footage and so forth, and use that to help lower the cost. So the net cost would actually be lower, because I assume you want to take that portion of the rent and apply it towards the remodeling. We did that with the conservation district, and we recouped our money in, was it 3 or 4 years? I can't remember, but we did agree, and therefore they also saved money on internet and other services, because they were paying for that separately when they were.
Well, in all departments, because the allocation gets lower in all departments because they add some on. So, yes.
So realistically, if we didn't use rescue funds for this project, in 3 to 5 years, we could pay it off.
This costs substantially more than the conservation district.
Yeah.
Would there be a payback period? Yes, it probably would. I'm guessing it'd be more than 5 years though.
But it would take.
Well, I would think you'd want to lower your allocation to the health department.
And that's
Depends
the
on
same
what the
thing.
board does.
Yeah, but it's the same thing with the tower. Eventually they will pay, it, so. Yes, Commissioner Rush.
I have a question. If we were looking at Eric Johnson's plan, his layout, that he's where he's got all his offices, is this specifically for his environmental?
Yeah.
Okay, and are we gonna be providing all of the furniture in that room?
We would have to discuss that. That's not part of the cost. So I'm not sure what furniture they have. We haven't got to that point.
Okay,
This price does not include new furniture, new desk, and
but it does provide all of the internet, phones.
all the wiring,
All
everything,
wiring.
not the actual computers.
Okay. Well, how much did we spend over here for the clerk's office?
This morning,
$10,000.
$11,000 just for a small portion of the furniture.
Right, so, that has to be considered in looking at this
No,
proposal.
That could be their responsibility too, like with the
Well, that's-
conservation district. We
I-
didn't pay for that.
I was getting there, that's what I'm saying. If we're gonna be responsible to furnish the room, that's gonna be an added cost to this. If we negotiate in the contract where they have to provide it, then.
What we did with the conservation district, we sat down and just did exactly what you said, because sometimes it just makes more sense. For example, the conservation district, we're paying from their own internet service. So we just said, well, we'll do all that in. Phone service, they'd be, I assume we have the ability to add phones to that. Other stuff, I believe the furniture, I think we paid it because we wanted it to match. We wanted to look the rest of the building, because long-term, in 10, 15, 20 years, there may be a different need for that. So we mandated the conservation district that we supply all the furniture.
Well, that's.
But then we lowered it from their allocation. So there's a lot of different ways. I think our who pays for it, it comes from that pot of money. So we have to determine whether we want to include that And at what point would we lower the yearly allocation for the reimbursable, we've come up with a chart, it's gonna cost X dollars. And because of that, it's gonna take us X number of years to recoup the cost.
Right.
And so it's all doable, just a matter of how we wish to structure.
Right, yeah. That's kind of what I was looking for, a little bit more on the detail end of it, so that
In a
we have a
perfect
clear
world, I think-
understanding that we might have to pay a little bit more
Yeah,
upfront.
this is just for the remodeling costs. Now, it could be somewhere in between these costs also. This is just a very rough
Yeah.
beginning. But I think, back to your question, I think you'd want to ensure, as we're the owners, that everything matches and is very professional looking. If you look at the conservation district, if you remember what the old office looked like to what it looks now, we mandated that they go through us and get all the customer insurance. So it looks, you go down there, it looks exactly the same as every other office, which I think you'd want,
Probably.
but we're not to that point.
I think the whole point by me bringing that up is those dollars have to come from somewhere. because that's just-
Looking at Eric Johnson's drawing, did you say that the space that all of the departments use stays? It's just that those items that were scattered around the big ugly room would be moved into.
That entire space, that ugly room, which is basically storage room anyway,
But including
the cage
the cage.
and the steering surfaces, yes,
Okay, that's what I was trying to,
that entire room would be. back to use.
okay. Thank you.
There would be room, we would have to probably eliminate some of the exercise equipment and so forth, but if you haven't been down there, there's a substantial amount of space. There are kayaks and boats that could be stored somewhere else, maybe. I mean, there's space, so it's used, so could it be reallocated? Yes. Originally, we thought to make this work, we would have to use the cage area. That's not the case anymore, and some of the stuff that's in the space could be put in the department's cage area. So this is just kind of the beginning snapshot, which I think at this point is all you were looking for.
Yes, you are.
I appreciate this. I guess my concern is that if you move one half of the health department over, it wouldn't be long before the other half would want to follow. And I'm deeply concerned about giving up all of our storage space in the basement. And I'm very opposed to that. I think it's really important to have some breathing space. I mean, that we built this building with the idea that boy, in the future, we may need some space down there. And we being county services and not health department. Health department is separate. They have their own funding. They have their own operations. So ideally for them, if they're being pushed out of Montessori, I'd like to see them build their own health department somewhere that would serve all their needs in the best possible way. You know, cramming all these people into the ugly room or ugly storage room might possibly fit. I know there's, I think just one window down there, so maybe two windows. So it's gonna be a lot of artificial lighting. It's gonna be cubby hole type offices. I don't think they're in there a lot. That's the only good part. It's kind of, it is kind of what it is, but I guess that's my main concern is just getting a foot in the door and then person will have their whole health department in this building. I don't think that's going to serve its best purposes, especially being separated, and we just don't have room for all of them to be in one spot together in this building. And plus, I don't think we should have to build an extra storage buildings to store all the things we do have in our storage. And I certainly would be opposed to doing anything with our cage area. That's totally unfair to our employees, have to go anywhere else other than down to their cages. So.
I believe there's some provision that they cannot own the building. Because I know they were trying to buy the Connie Jinsfield building at one time. And even when it was built, a third party bought it and leased it back to the health department. And I know when it came for sale, they looked at that, but I believe there's some provision. I'm not an expert. Back in my mind, I remember us having a discussion about that
Yeah.
they were not allowed to own the building, just like the council of governments was not allowed to own a building. They had to lease space. There may be something, they cannot enter a long-term mortgage.
Well, or it was the way we built that building, which was some
Yeah, I don't
funky
know. but-
grant type system.
It was
They
under
built
the
it,
foundation,
yeah,
and it was, they couldn't get control of it somehow. They had to
Right.
get rid of the
I know they
foundation.
Right.
tried to buy it and there was some legal
But I know
challenge.
Benzie owns their own building.
That's
Or is
what
it
I
owned by
thought.
Benzie County though?
Oh, and I don't
That could
know.
be owned by Benzie County. I think, like I
It may
said,
have been,
yeah, it could be owned by
Because
Benzie
they're
County.
talking about they're gonna have to build a new building or add on to it.
yeah, yeah. That's my
But anyway,
thoughts.
I think it's a good idea. So. Then that brings us then, we already have done future meeting dates.
Can we go back to that for a minute?
Sure.
Okay. If we move the environmental department here to this campus, reduce their rent, but they will be serving both Leelanau and Benzie, is that a true statement?
I don't,
Well, by county health department, so I suppose yes.
Well,
the people we have here work in Leelanau County. And Benzie has their own down there.
okay, so it's two separate departments, you
Pretty
might,
much, but the administration is combined. You know, like Lisa Peacock is the administrator for both together.
But
You know.
for the environmental side, that would be just Leelanau County's footprint, but for the health side, can't Benzie's residents come to our health department and us go to their health department?
I believe they can, but they don't usually do that.
Just Charlie Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As I understand, like with Eric Johnson, he's the director of environmental health, but there's employees in both counties that do the inspections. and
They
stuff.
have their own sanitary.
So if you call Benzie, you'll get these inspectors. If you call Leelanau, you get these. They don't commingle. Is that,
That's, yes,
that's
that's
my
my understanding of the whole thing.
so when the department moves here, Eric will move here.
potentially, I think.
I don't
Right,
know.
it's potential, but the people that he directs, do they have offices here?
Yeah, that's what these rooms would be.
Okay,
Each one is
that
in
was
a-
my point, so,
Each one of these offices is, each one has their own office in this place.
And
That's the idea.
those will be Leelanau County,
Right.
or employees servicing Leelanau County, not Benzie.
And I mean, I don't know this for sure, but I do think if somebody is sick or something, they will go down and help them out. That's, you know, but these are for Leelanau County.
I've been in the space at the county Bensfield of Eric's team. This is quite a bit more space
Yes.
than they have there.
do they need that much space?
So
Well, some of them share offices. They'd rather have their own.
I think this is what they're hoping to get,
Yeah.
I think.
Yes, if they build a new building, this is what they would do.
Buy a home and have more space.
True.
Is there any thought to proceed, or do you want to do anything more with this, or just, or think about it? That's up to you.
Well, I think this is the first time we've got
Yeah.
these numbers and looked at it, and I think that it's something that, you know, that we don't want to make a decision.
Oh, you want to put it on the February 28th agenda?
Yes. I mean, I'm ready to move forward, but I think because we just got it, we
Yeah.
should wait, take some time. So, were there any other things, other than we'll move to any other comments or anything, public comment?
I have a question.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm just wondering, can I ask a question? Do you have a time frame that you're constrained by?
By the amount of money that we can raise, by the gap, and that's been the case for the past 2 years.
So, is there any public comment?
Yeah. It's a lot of food for thought here. So if you're going to hire an administrator, Lois Bailey, if you're going to hire an administrator, you're going to come up against the same problem as the librarian in Leland, and, you know, or you can't throw your net out too far, because hiring somebody that you expect to come in and find a home to live in We've already told you that there are 50 houses on the market right now. There's so much demand and it's eating up all of our affordable housing. You know, it's just an avalanche of a problem that we need to start moving on as soon as we can. So help this man build 8 units, get that ball moving, get us a contract person to start handling projects in a variety of places. We need to build rentals. We can't build freestanding houses fast enough, affordably enough. Then the number of units that we need just keeps growing. Unless you want to go out and buy a house right now, so you'll have one in anticipation of a new administrator coming in from somewhere else in the state and saying, I have no place to live. I can't take this job. I have to commute from Kalkaska. So, thank you.
John Stimson, Leland Township in Traverse City. So I just made a few notes after you discussed, and I was appalled 100,000 out of the whole capital stack of what you have to dole out. That seems appalling to me. I mean, it's disappointing, but I get it. You've got so many other commitments and things you got to take care of. We can do a project if you give us 50,000. Give us whatever you can, as much as you can. Yeah, I need 278, but you know, maybe I could lower my developer fee more. Maybe that would work. Maybe we could increase our rents, and then that would lower our permanent financing debt, and you know, that would make up for the capital loss. There are programs coming from the state, and good programs. There's also a USDA program they're putting together for rural development for our areas that need, you know, housing, affordable housing. So the time frame, it takes me 2 years to get the capital put together. And it's a stack like you see, and it goes even deeper because there's other people and other commitments. Some of that 160,000 on there has to be paid back in 15 years. So I can extend it to 20 years. The land bank wants 20 years. You talk about, you know, housing, should we put money into housing for sale? That's available in some areas, and that's what Leelanau Reach did quite successfully. We're monitoring those right now, and they go on for 99 years. It's not really the greatest program for homeowners. It gives them a bigger house than they normally would afford, but they don't get a return on their investment. They get a small appreciated value at the resale. So rentals are really more important and give you a little bit more bang for the buck. Like I said, 50,000 per unit is sort of an industry standard. If you give us 200,000, we get 4 units. I'm asking for 37,000 per unit at 278. So we're dedicated to Leelanau County. We'll continue regardless of what you can send our way. But when you do send it, know that we need a decision as soon as you can. Because if it's a dollar amount, we need to know so we can go and work on other capital requirements. And if you have any questions, I'd take them, but that's about what I had to say. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, and you know my position on the housing advocate or position. I've said enough on that.
Commissioner comment.
Following up on John, one of the reasons I like the home stretch proposal is I looked at the tremendous amount of the donations, contributions from Leelanau Christian Neighbors and some other private partners. And this would be a real opportunity to work with the land bank, with the county commission, with all of our private partners and our nonprofits to do something. So I don't know at what level we could do it, but I think helping this project is a good way to get eight units in our county for the people that we need working in our county.
Isn't this land bank or brownfield property? Didn't we do that?
We did, the land bank
Could
already
have
done it, yeah.
sold that property for great profit. Right?
If they don't raise the money, the land bank takes it back.
It's making a point.
Any other comments?
Just quickly, that our Max representative yesterday said that $2 billion for rural broadband. is a potential that could happen quicker versus later. So they do create an Office of Rural Broadband, and allocate $2 billion. I would think we'd be further ahead than most counties to try to get those funds. So it's a big if they create it and actually allocate it. But I thought that may be an option for us to look at.
Well, you make my point, you know, and not being in such a big hurry to go off and spend all these dollars because it's gonna change. And if we make a move and put this 3.2 million or whatever dollar amount we end up deciding on towards broadband, we might be shooting ourselves in the foot.
Yeah, I appreciate that, but as I said, I think we could easily save 17 million ourselves into this county or whatever to get fiber in this county, because that's what I'm hearing from people all the time. It's when are we getting broadband? When are we getting fiber? Why can't I get, you know, telephone? Why can't I get this and that? So it's an expectation of people is that we get them fiber and they're excited about it. For a lot of comments.
Yeah, I wholeheartedly echo what Commissioner Lautner just said. It's, you know, anytime you can get a company who is actually going to invest in a project that's a $17.4 million project and they're putting everything in except $5 million, that is one heck of a deal. And it's not one of these where I have to go out and find grants to be able to do it. They've got the money. And so I think what our job is what it's always been through this effort of the broadband expansion plan that you all tasked us with, is to now move forward and find solutions for those folks who don't have it. We've got almost 74% covered with this particular proposal. So now we need to cover the rest. I mean, we're fortunate that we can do it through fiber rather than all the other ways we're looking at piecemealing it together. But as I said, we're looking at high-speed 35.5. That's not slow. It's not fiber, but it means most people can do anything they want to do. And in the meantime, we're working on getting fiber to the rest of that our community that isn't covered by this particular plan. And if it hadn't been for the working relationship with Cherryland Electric, this wouldn't be possible either financially. It would cost a whole lot more than 17.4. So I agree wholeheartedly with Commissioner Hunter. It's a good investment for our community, as is the towers. And I think we've got the money now. Let's do it, get it done.
I agree, and I think the best part was that the cost to the customer is minimal, you know. And I don't know that we'd be able to get anything. But, and I do agree that it's a shame that we can only do as little as that. But when you take 3.2 out of the 4.2, it doesn't leave much to work with, you know. Let's hope we get more and then we can be more generous. This meeting is adjourned.
Thanks for coming, John.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
Next week.
Appreciate it.
Oh,
Give a try to go out.
Thanks for coming, Lois.
I'm not a fan of some.